friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number, maybe 89, possibly. I don't know. I actually, today, normally I prepare the description field before I start recording. In fact, I sometimes do it as the week goes along. If I work on something and decide that I am going to show it in the video, I add it to the description field. But I didn't do that today. I think it's 89. You'll know because the card or the screen at the very beginning of the video, while my husband's arrangement of Leaning on the Everlasting Arms is playing, that will have the correct number on it. Anyway, welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show, whatever number it is. Today is August 18th, 2023, and I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and thanks for joining me. Last week I had mentioned 2 weeks ago that I possibly wouldn't do a video a week ago, last week, because I anticipated having a lot of busyness and maybe not having a lot of time to do stitching, and that turned out to be largely true. And it also happened that my friend Cindy and I posted our Galloping Horse video, Galloping Horse Quilting. I think that went up on maybe Saturday night or Sunday. So I'm sorry, that might be, for those of you who are only interested in cross stitch, that's a poor substitute for a Flosstube and Variety Show video, but perhaps you'll find something interesting there. Cindy and I certainly have a lot of fun, and you will see the progress I've made on the quilt I'm making for my friend Anne, because I show it in there. And since then, I have loaded that quilt onto our quilting machine and quilted about half of it. I'll probably finish it tomorrow, I would think, or maybe Sunday. Anyway, Flosstube means cross stitch, and Variety Show means me nattering on about other things, and we'll see what that amounts to today. You've already heard some nonsense, I guess. So first I will show you cross stitch. The first weekend in the month, I'm still honoring as Blackbird Designs Weekend Stitch Along weekend, and I'm working on this piece, which is Mighty Acorn, and this is in the book Winds of Autumn. And from this book, I've already stitched this pillow. I stitched that, I mean, it isn't a pillow yet. I've stitched that earlier this year, and there are many things in here I want to stitch. It's really full of beautiful things. Most of the Blackbird books are, aren't they? And this is what I did 2 weekends ago now. I finished the border. Well, I made the border meet, and then I started on the inner border, which is just that zigzag, and I did the acorn, and I did the foot of the tree, the base of the tree. My thought is there's enough stitching in that tree that I might carry up doing the edge of it. Open to the page again. If I could sort of do the edge of it up to about there, then I have some fill-in to do when I'm talking to somebody or watching television, baseball, or something like that. It's now August. It's almost time to start watching baseball in earnest, because after the All-Star break and before the real blocking in teams into the playoffs is a very interesting time of the season, I think. My husband and I enjoy baseball. This is Mathilde. This is from the Nicola Parkman Letters from Europe box that she released in February. Well, she announced it in February, and I can't remember exactly when I got it. Might have been March. I bought it from somebody who bought it and decided that it didn't really suit them. And I have been working on this one. It's the first one from the box. You may remember that I have been concerned about the red thread. Well, as you see, I managed to finish the red, finished all the border, finished that cartouche, and did the key. That was the last bit of it in red that I needed to do. And I did not run out of thread. Let's see, I put that spool here somewhere. That's it. I think, I haven't measured, I'm thinking there's about maybe 3 yards or 4 yards of thread left. So plenty of thread. This is on 20 count, Just the Ticket, 20 count Aida, Just the Ticket by Tabby Cat. So that's, and I did 1 strand over 1 Aida square. And so if you do it on 40 count, 1 over 2, or on 20 count Aida, 1 spool of 103 thread will do your red for you. There's quite a bit of stitching in blue also, but I think less stitching than there is in red, so I'm not really worried about the blue. We'll see though as I go along. Whenever I am working on this, I can't put it down. In fact, that's true of a lot of these pieces. Winter Rose Manor. This is by With Thy Needle and Thread, Brenda Gervais. So many people have already stitched this. In fact, Carol Saltbox Stitcher showed her finished, not framed version in her most recent video that went up, I think, this weekend, and makes me want to finish it. So I got a lot more done on the house. That's, in fact, the main thing I worked on, was filling in on the house. I had I had it in my mind that I would finish the lower part of the house, not the roof, but the lower part of the house before this video, but I could have kept working on it, but I really wanted to do some other things. So that is going well. Love it. As you know, I have 2 full coverage pieces going. One is the Tiger Stare that I showed a few weeks ago, maybe 3 videos ago perhaps. I try to show one of them in every video, but I have to have gotten enough done to make it worth your looking at, because I think it's hard to tell about progress. But this is Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather, and it's charted by Golden Kite. This is a custom size, which is now available on their webpage. They originally offered it as a large, which was 600 something stitches wide, which I just didn't want to do a piece that big. I thought life is too short. So I asked, they will do custom, I don't know if they'll do custom charting, but they certainly would do a custom size. So I asked them about that. And here we are. I mostly worked on blue up there in the sky, and also I tried to carry some of the little, bits of confetti stitching from the bush and from the girl who's lying on the bench. I tried to do some of that. And I'm actually getting to the point where I don't want to do some of those colors because I'm running out of my gridding. So what I think I'll do the next session of times I work on it, is to go back into this section, around in here, it's mostly done, and follow all of that up with the graffiti stitching, and so that I can pull that gridding out and extend the gridding out this way, and then I'll feel better about picking up some of these colors, because unless there's a big block of stitching to start with, it's sort of discouraging to do 20 stitches of a color that if only I could move a little farther over, I could do another 40 stitches of it. I would rather just wait until I could do 60 stitches. So up here in the sky, I think that is maybe 6 different or maybe 8 different combinations of threads. Some of it is a single color, that is 2 strands of a color of blue, but most of it is blends, 1 strand of each of 2 colors. And I think I mean, when the whole thing is done, I think it'll be dramatic. Being up so close to it, it seems ridiculous. But it isn't. I know it really isn't ridiculous. It really is worthwhile. This is 2 strands of DMC, the called for DMC on 18 count Aida. I think it's in the color Sand. Actually, I have these stacked in a different order than I want to show them, so let me just shift something. I mean, because I haven't done a video in 2 weeks, you're sort of almost getting a whip parade, so bonus. Sampler 193 by 2x2 Stitch Art. I'm doing this on 16 count white Aida in DMC 777. And I've made it down to that lower corner. I'm about 40% done, 42% done, I think. I don't know, I don't really remember. So I have that solid stitching on the border to do, and I'm sort of leaving that until I need to do something that I don't have to think about. There's probably 400, 500 stitches in that, 2 columns of stitches. And then I think the next thing, since I've made it down to the corner, I sort of think I might go back up to the top and come over to this corner, and then I'll have the diagonal done. That might be interesting. I don't know. You can do anything. You can do anything you want, right? Doesn't matter what order you do things in. This is also good baseball game stitching. And football season, college football is starting in a few weeks, which is just astonishing to me. Where has the year gone? Seems like about 3 weeks ago I was watching bowl games. Apparently not. Finally, I will show Hannah Campbell, 1838. This is Hands Across the Sea. If I were a monogamous stitcher, this could be it. Now I've only worked on it maybe 3 days since the last time I showed it to you, but I finished that bowl of flowers and I did this thing up here, which the light is not great, but when I looked at it in the chart and in the picture, it just looks like a blob, but I can see that it's a rose. And I think it's beautiful. I can carry it on the border some more, and I did this. This is almost done, this little motif. It still needs 2 little flowers coming out the top of it. And I carried on the border down here. And one of the reasons that I liked this, that I was even attracted to this to start with, is because every one of these zigzag sections of the border has something in it. And they are not identical. I mean, a few of them are the same, but for the most part, they're different. They may be the same design, same layout of stitches, but different colors, slightly different colors. I just really enjoy working on this. Now we'll see, I'm about to get into the over 1. There's a little bird that goes right here. That's an over 1 bird. This little guy is an over 1 bird. It's sort of the same bird. Well, that is interesting. I'll have to look at the chart. I'm just looking. Oh, no, it's different. Dishwasher's done. So yeah, it isn't the same bird. This bird has a blue breast and this bird is red and black, basically. This bird is the same as this bird, but this is not over 1. This is over 1. So that is the first over 1 I'll come to. We'll see. We'll see if I still love this sampler after I've done that, but I think I will. I mean, I understand the concept of how to do the over 1 so your threads don't disappear. You just have to be careful which direction you make your cross. So, I mean, you still cross all of the top threads in the same direction as each other and as your 2 over 2 cross top threads, but you have to notice which way the threads are woven across each other so that you are holding them together rather than sliding under them as you make that cross. And I've done over one on, well, I did Salute to Abigail, Blackbird Designs, on 22 count hardanger fabric because I liked the color of fabric that I had, and that is like stitching over one even though I went over two, and it was fine. I mean, I had to think about it, but once I thought about it a bit, it worked out fine. So I'm not too worried about it. And as you may remember, I'm working that, this is 36 count ballet slippers. You see it has a little bit of a pinkish tone to it, pinkish gray tone. 36 count ballet slippers by Fox and Rabbit, and I'm using Soie d'Alger for the main part of the stitching, and then I have the 103s for the over one stitching. And I intend to do full crosses on the over one. For one thing, that lets you alternate which direction you're stitching, and your stitches will stay in place rather than the risk of them sliding under the linen threads. So that's my plan. We'll see. Perhaps by the next time I show that, you'll see some over one stitching, and I'll be able to tell you whether I'm going crazy or not. Many people object to over one stitching, or they find it difficult. So I don't want to be too hubristic and say, no problem, until I've done it. So this is practically a whip parade, I was realizing, because the only other things I'm working on, I think, are the tiger that I mentioned earlier, which is full coverage, and the Christmas piece, Nativity Scene by Stitchy Princess, which this weekend is the Nativity Sal weekend that Leslie and I have designated for ourselves, the third weekend of every month. And my thought is, as I recall, I might be in shooting distance of finishing that this weekend if I were to really concentrate on it. That would be fun, because I have another Christmas piece, two others actually, that I would like to stitch. But the other thing I have realized this past couple weeks is that I don't think I have enough. I think I'm down one in terms of sort of normal stitching. I feel as if I want one more piece going. But here's the problem, and this is where you can applaud me for having a modicum anyway of sanity. In 5 weeks or less, Leslie and I are going to the Great British Sampler Weekend in England, at which place we're going to be provided with some projects, and there's going to be the ability to buy some projects, charts, probably kits. And I also ordered a kit recently, which I can't remember what it is. It hasn't come yet. It was a pre-order, and some people have received them. They're being assembled as the orders come in and as the materials come in. So it's going to be another few weeks probably before I receive that. Whenever I receive it, of course, I'll show it to you, which is a sampler. And yes, I think maybe I should just try to hold off. Or if I were to pick up another piece, I think it should be something very small. So what else have I been doing? Well, I've done some tatting, and I've shown tatting before, I think. I should have gotten one of those doilies. Well, anyway, tatting, I can show you this tiny little bit of it. Tatting is lace that is basically knotted thread. It's made with knots. And you make rings, and you make chains, and you make picots, and tatting is entirely those things, different ways you put that together. And you use a shuttle, which looks like this. I like this particular type. It's cheap, It's plastic, it's easy to hold. There's a little ridged part on the back, can you see that? That gives it a place to grip. And the point is nice and sharp, so it's easy to get inside and under the threads. And you wind your thread around it and tat. And this is, this is 80 weight DMC Coordonnée Spéciale, which is not sold in the US anymore, apparently. But you can get it, I can get it if I wanted to, if I needed more, but I could get it through Etsy shops. And here I have, this is a heavier weight thread that I was just trying out. This pattern is called Hen and Chicks. And these are very simple, very straightforward, simple patterns. I've done more complicated tatting, but the reason I've been tatting is because I decided to put a tatted edging around the little small that is for the Blackbird Designs. I mean, it's for the smalls exchange at the Great British Sampler weekend. And so that I've finished. I did the tatted edging. I made it into a little pillow, stuffed it with sawdust, put a tatted edging around it, and it's now done. I haven't wrapped it yet. I'll show it. Probably, maybe in my next video, I'll show it. And then I'll wrap it because even though it's still some weeks away from going, I have a staging area prepared for things that I'm taking, and that is finished. I might as well pack it up. So that is something I've been working on. Now, it was interesting because I really used to love to tat. I used to tat sort of obsessively. And I think that there's a few differences between my life now and what it was back when I used to tat. One of those differences is that I was younger. And what that actually means is that my joints were better. So I had some real pain in my wrist the past couple of days, and I couldn't really tell if it was from tatting or if it was from how I had to hold that pillow in order to try to get the tatted edging whip stitched on there. So I took a rest from tatting for a couple of days, and I may try pick it up again maybe tomorrow, just to see how it goes. Because I tatted for some time every day for probably a week to make 16 or so inches of tatted edging. Well, I probably made 25 or maybe even 30. No, I probably made 25 inches, but the other difference between when I used to tat years ago and now is that years ago, apparently I could keep my mind on things better, because now, this time I made some mistakes. And so this little ring here, each of those little rings is basically a slip knot that has knots tied around it. And once you have slipped that ring closed, you cannot get it open again. You're out of luck on making it big again in order to correct a mistake. So if you've made a mistake, you either have to cut it and then attach, and that's not hard to do. You just tie a knot, and on these tiny threads, I just tie a really good knot and then trim the threads really close. Or you start over, which is why I made 25 inches of tatting for 16 inches of finished product, because I had to start over some. But, oh, here's another bit. This is, I was working on this before. These are such simple little, and it's all tangled. Well, I think what happened is I pulled the thread off the bobbin in order to wind a different thread on it, but pardon all the mess, but this would be sort of an insert if you were attaching two pieces of linen together. You could use that. This is the type of edging I made for that little pillow. You see there's a big ring with lots of picots and a little ring with only one picot. I don't know if that's in focus, but that I've been working on. And I I enjoy it. It's very relaxing. It does require counting and some amount of focus. So maybe that's a good baseball activity. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that tomorrow is our son's, Byron's and my son's, birthday. And I was just going to tell a few stories from his childhood. Now he doesn't watch the video, so he does not know that he's a feature of the variety show. And I think that's fine. And if any of you know him, you don't need to point it out. Anyway, he has been he's been a brilliant, I don't know what his IQ is. It seems to me he must have had an IQ test at some point because he was unusually smart. But I don't know the number, it doesn't matter. I'll just say he was smart. He's always been very interested in math. He used to always also be very interested in maps, and as a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old, we could give him maps from AAA as a present, and it would be totally the greatest gift. I recall when he was 4 years old, he would spread out the maps on the floor of his bedroom, and he would crawl around on them and study them. And at one point, a friend of mine said, "Emily, you should get him some map carpeting." I said, "Susan, he has map carpeting. He can change it anytime he likes." And so that was interesting. And we also had, those big Rand McNally atlases. This was before the days that everybody's phone had a GPS on it. And whenever we would be planning to go somewhere, I would pull out the atlas to look at how we might get there. And Scott was fascinated with that. And so he would borrow the atlas when I wasn't looking at it. And I once discovered that he had drawn some extra roads into it and drawn islands into the middle of the Mississippi River because there was plenty of room there for islands. So we can just add some. And so we started, whenever we would get a new atlas, a new edition of the atlas, we just got 2 copies because it was easier to let him do whatever he wanted to with his own copy than try to keep him from messing up our copy. Because once he's drawn some roads in, if he's drawn it too dark, then you can't see what the details you might need to see to get where you're going. One of the times we were driving from Western New York, which is where my parents live, we were driving home, and Scott was in the back seat, and he was 3, I would say. I'm going to guess he was 3. And in this journey, the way we would go is we would go a certain distance, and then in Pennsylvania, we would get on the Pennsylvania Turnpike for just about 8 miles or 10 miles from one exit to the other, basically. Maybe it was 2 exits, probably 2 exits, because otherwise this little thing wouldn't have happened. And Byron was driving, and I decided I would take a little nap. I said, "So I'm going to take a nap." So I was sort of dozing off in the chair, and we were on the turnpike, and then I heard Scott say, "Exit 21B, Daddy, you missed it." Well, yes. I woke right up. Yes, Daddy had missed it. Daddy he'd been thinking about something else, and Scott, not realizing how driving works at the age of 3, didn't say, "Dad, your exit is coming up. You might want to turn your signal on and get to the right lane." He only mentioned it when it was too late. So I pulled out the atlas, my copy, not Scott's, and looked up how much farther we had to go. But Scott was he really did remember trips like that. In fact, in kindergarten, there was a student teacher in his class, and she said, "I'm, Miss Smith, and I'm from Raleigh." And Scott raised his hand and said, "Miss Smith, to get to Raleigh, you take I-40 to exit 282, or where in Raleigh do you live?" And then he gave her the actual route and exits that she would need to use to get to her house. So that was something. But he was really also oriented toward numbers, and where maps and numbers intersect, if I may use that cartographic term, is exit numbers. He was studying the map one day, and he said, "Dad, did you know that there are 4-digit exit numbers in Texas on route, whatever the interstate is that goes across Texas?" I mean, that was fascinating, because in all the states, probably every other state in the whole country, there is no interstate that goes more than 3-digit numbers of miles. So he'd only ever seen 3-digit exit numbers. In fact, Byron had the idea that at one point they might fly to the wherever the exit numbers started from 0. If it starts from west to east or east to west, whichever direction, fly to the beginning of the interstate and rent a car. And then Scott could just drive across the state, and then Scott could watch the exit numbers going up for the whole trip, which they didn't do that. But isn't that something he would have been fascinated. And he was a very good traveler because he was very observant and enjoyed looking out the window and noticing numbers. He also knew exactly which exits we stopped at to get to our favorite restaurants on our various trips that we made multiple times to see family. Anyway, his birthday is tomorrow. He is going to be a prime number years old. Is that true? Yes. And he's brilliant. He's still brilliant. He's still interested in numbers. He teaches 7th grade math in the public high school or middle school in far western New York. And I may have mentioned that they recently, this year, bought a 5.5 acres with a farmhouse and some outbuildings in extreme eastern Tennessee. And they have dogs and chickens and are just a gorgeous view. And I'll put a few pictures up because I'm going to just do that of him. I will have probably, as I've been talking, of him as he's grown up. They got married. He and his wife got married 7 years ago. Is that right? 2016. And she's like a daughter. It's been a wonderful thing. And they have enjoyed their marriage, and they're enjoying their life now. It's very fun. They're a fun couple. And we always enjoy seeing them. I hope they'll come down sometime soon in the next several weeks to see us. Come down, i.e. come down from the mountains, because they live in Roan Mountain, Tennessee. So anyway, that is today's video. I will make a video next week for sure. I will make a video, at least one video between now and when I go to the Great British Sampler weekend trip, but I can't say for sure which Friday it will be, or if it will even be a Friday. And this is because we're going to have some company. Anna's coming, and we'll have some things planned. And I won't be doing as much cross-stitching because I'll be playing games and eating delicious food, and who knows, maybe other things. And so I just can't say for sure that I would make more than 2 videos a week from today and some point in September before going away. But and I don't usually harp on at all that you should subscribe. I love it if you do. It's exciting. It's fun to see, oh, I have so-and-so is newly subscribed. Or that if you follow me on Instagram. I don't, normally mention it. But if you enjoy these videos and you want to not miss one, if it comes up out of cycle, off a Friday or not on one Friday, but it does the next, the best way to make sure you're still going to be in the loop on that is to subscribe and to click the little notification bell. Somebody said they didn't get a notification recently when I put a video up. And I've noticed sometimes I don't either, but I do get it if I open YouTube the web page or my app, there is that little notification section up in the upper right-hand corner, and usually all of my videos that I have the bell clicked for do show me that there's a new video on that channel, whoever it is. So that's what the upcoming weeks are. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new, I welcome you. I hope you found something interesting or heard something interesting. And I hope that all of you are enjoying your stitching and are staying cool enough in this hot weather here in the Northern Hemisphere. We have some very hot weather. We have had and we're going to have very hot weather. And just enjoy yourselves. Find fun things to do that bring you joy and peace and contentment. Many blessings to you, friends.